and welcome back to the Cartel YouTube channel. So as some of you might have seen our community page and some of our socials this week, we've announced we are officially sponsored by Kong's Cards. And to celebrate, we're going to post a video doing Elfnote test hand combo videos. So if you want to support us, go on and use code CARTEL5, all caps, on Kong's Cards for 5% off all purchases. So we're just going to pull a couple of live test hands with the Elfnote deck that I have showcased the profile for on the channel already. And we're going to just talk through some of the decision making, some of the combos, the lines I would take and why I took them. So we're just going to shuffle up. And we'll just give it a cut. Okay, so let's see what we're drawing. Lucina, Engraver, Tenya, Imperm, Theoralis. I mean, as far as going first hands are, this is pretty good. So here I would start Theoralis, send our Medius's cost, allows us to check our opponent's top deck and see whether we want to leave it on top or put it on the bottom. Also insulates us because we have now Theoralis to get our light fiends in graveyard. So then I would lead off with Engraver. Get our Attract. Then I'll Attract. Get our Lurry, discard our Lurry. Lurry effect. Bring this back. Make Requiem. Here we'll just use the effect. Because I'm not worrying too much about playing around anything in this first combo video, we'll just showcase the ceiling of the deck. It's also on the Lacrima, and we'll go Lacrima effect, send the Engraver. So here you have a couple of options, really. You can make the Neck Equip, but usually I won't really do that. So we'll just use the Engraver effect, we'll put back the Lurry, summon the Engraver, anywhere but the middle zone. And then here, I would special the Tenya into the middle zone. We'll use the Tenya effect. We'll get our Welcome Home. This way, if we get nibbed, we've already secured the extension from the Welcome Home, even if we do get nibbed in the zone blocked with the nib token. Here we'll take these two. I'll take these two. Not overcomplicate things. Make our sequence. And then here I would use the sequence effect. We'll shuffle back the Requiem and the Lacrima. And we'll make our Fiendsmith Lacrima. And then we'll Lacrima effect target Engraver, and in this case we'll just summon the Engraver. And then here we make our Caesar. So whenever we have 2 6s on board, they're forced to nib here. If they do nib here, we're fine because we've already established the Welcome Home as the piece of extension through this. And then here we have Sequence, which is essentially spare fodder for our Welcome Home and our Maddening Rhapsodia. So we'll activate the Welcome Home, we'll send the Tenya. We'll summon our Lucina over here, and then we'll activate our Lucina. We'll add our Fortuna. And then here we can special our Fortuna, effect and get the trap. So here we currently don't have the Power Patron, but we have access to our Medius in graveyard. So here we can go Medius effect Engrave. We can summon our Medius by shuffling back our sequence. And then Medius effect will summon the Power Patron. Then we'll take these two, and we will synchro into our Seraphim. And then here, so we have a couple of choices that we can activate our Seraphim, we can bring back our Power Patron and make a Crystal Wing, or we can activate Seraphim, bring back our Power Patron in the center zone, level modulate, and make an 8. Or we can try and make our Fabled Advisable. Here I would go for the Seraphim, bringing back the Power Patron. Effective Power Patron, make this a level 4, and then we can synchro and make an 8. And here we're able to make our Omega. And then in this instance, we can also, so you have two choices. You can either leave the Omega here and shuffle back the Medius into the graveyard in their standby phase. That allows you to hand rip then in their main phase. Or you can go Omega effect, banish, take a card out of their hand right now. And then we can activate the Rhapsodia effect. We can send the Lucina from the hand, target the Tinea, and summon the Tinea into the center zone. And this now gives us, in their turn, our Imperm, which will be set. We have a fit card on field negate with the Rhapsodia. Non-target reborn any Elfnote from grave. 2 summon negates. We'll be able to switch the Lucina and the Tinea around, and non-target bounce to level 6 or lower. And then once we've done that, we'll be able to execute the Tinea and hand rip. So we'll be able to take 2 cards out of their hand, and we're playing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this can be a 6th disruption in the Fortuna, or we can bring back the Power Patron, level modulate, and attempt to make the Genora. But that was a reasonably good going first hand, and we didn't try to play around so much, so I'll shuffle up here and pull out another test hand and try and work about playing through some hand traps. Okay, so for test hand 2, we'll just draw a live test hand and play through it. We can try and talk about some of the positions where we're susceptible to a hand trap, and even simulate that and through and see what our end board is like through a Droll or an Ash. Or at least be more mindful of these options. Okay, so let's give this cut. Alright, let's see our second test hand. Aprilia, Power Patron, Lucina, already looking less good than last time. Rhapsodia, and an Imperm. Now this hand is definitely weaker going first than the last hand. Going second, it's still okay, especially if we can get our Aprilia to resolve in some matchups, we can draw some more cards. But here, going first, we were definitely special the Lucina. We can activate the Lucina, and here, because we have our second Power Patron that's in our hand, this isn't that important. We can allow this to be interacted with Ash, Imperm, Veiler, it doesn't really matter. I guess for the purposes of this, we'll assume that our Lucina has been Impermed. So we've lost the search on that. Now we can normal our Power Patron. We'll activate the Power Patron effect. We'll level modulate the Lucina to gain 3 levels, so it's now 9. 9 and 1. We'll make our Fabled Advisable. We'll trigger a Power Patron and Grave to Search. And then here we'll add a Tinea, because we've already attempted to use the Lucina effect. And then because we've started with Lucina into Power Patron, we're able to get the Advisable, which is a Light Fiend. So now we get our Fiendsmith combo online. We'll Requiem into Lacrima effect, send the Engraver. And then again here we can special the Tinea effect. Look at our spell, so that in case of Nibiru, we already have secured that extension. Here, we'll be mindful of something like a bell, so we'll activate the Requiem, we'll target the Lacrima, we'll contact fuse into the Necrowhip. So here, if they attempt to bell us on the Engraver, we at least get the draw of the Necrowhip. So we use the Engraver effect, we'll shuffle back the Advisable as cost. We'll summon this. And then here you can straight up make your Caesar, or we can think about if we want to end on Desiree. So we definitely do have the materials in our graveyard here for Desiree if we link off this engraver. Yeah, I mean, let's do that, just change up the import. We'll link to into our sequence. Well, sequence effect, we can shuffle away our 3 Light Fiends. Here we get to summon our Desiree. And then here we do play like Numday package, so we are able to do that, but then we'll lose the sequence as material to send on the trap. So I think here we'll activate the Welcome Home, we'll send the Perulia. And remember, we've already used the Lucina in this instance, so we can summon our Fortuna. And then Fortuna effect, we can activate the trap from hand. And then because we have no monsters in hand, but we've kept the sequence, we can activate the trap, we'll send the sequence, targeting the Power Patron. So we can summon our Power Patron, doesn't really matter where, we've already used the level modulation effect. And then we can sync with these. So because we're not planning to extend too much past this, we can summon our Seraphim in here. And then we can activate our Seraphim. We'll say we'll reborn our Tinia and we'll activate our sequence to equip to the Desiree. So this hand was a Lucina start with a Power Patron hard drawn. We assumed we were interacting with on the Lucina in Permarash, and we could have potentially had a draw on the neck equip, or can potentially draw going forward. I mean, if we shuffle up and assume our opponent activates a card in their turn. Pretty good. Now we get an extra point interaction. So we have an imperm set. We assume we get a draw off the bell, of the equip off the bell, and then we have our on-field negate off our Rhapsodia. We have the Tinia hand rip by switching zones. We have our Desiree negate 2, and then our Seraphim can reborn either our Lucina or our Fortuna to then switch and deal with whichever card we need to deal with, whether it's a monster or spell or trap. So through one piece interaction, this is a pretty good board. So our opponent was on 4 cards, we've hand ripped another, so now they're on 3 cards, drawn for turn up to 4, and you'd be doing well to have any 4-card hand that would beat a board like this. So we will shuffle up and draw another test hand and see what we're working with. Okay, so for the purposes of this last test hand, let's say we're going to play around draw. Let's assume our opponent has draw, or we think our opponent has draw, and we want to play against around it as best we can and see what our end board would be on a proper live test hand. So we will again results cut. Right, so we're working with Medius, already a good start. Power Patron, less good. Lucina, pretty good. Engraver, and Etherealize. Okay, so we're assuming that we would like to play around draw best we can. So I think in that case, our best bet is to leave with Etherealize. We can send our Medius for cost. And then this allows us to immediately check our opponent's top deck. So already we can try to make sure that their hand is as weak as possible playing into our board. Here I think we want to conserve the normal summon because we have a possible Power Patron in hand. So we'll activate the Medius Engrave. We'll shuffle away a Medius from hand, summon our Medius from grave. And then I guess in this instance we can assume our opponent interacts with our Medius. We can Asher Imperm the Medius, forcing us to commit a normal summon. In this case, we would probably go for a normal summon off the Power Patron. Here we'd activate the Power Patron, do level modulate, and then we would synchro our 8. Mega. So our opponent started with a 5-card hand, we're assuming they have now Ashed Medius, who's now banished. And we'll trigger our Power Patron to search. When you're attempting to play around or through your draw, your best bet is always to get your Tinia. So here we're assuming our opponent has attempted to draw on res. which is why we haven't led with the engraver, because grabbing attract as first action would be not good in this hand. So our opponent is now on 3 cards. We can now put our opponent on 2 cards, and we can then special Artinia. We'll activate Artinia, get our spell. So we're not going to be able to search on our Lucina here, so we don't want to commit into our usual line of Welcome Home sending the Tinia right back to the Lucina. So I think we'll go Welcome Home, send the Lucina from hand, allows us to summon the Fortuna from deck because it has a different attribute. We'll go for our Fortuna. And we can get our Rhapsodia. So our opponent is currently on 2 cards in hand, and we have an engraver, which is a form of follow-up for us. So here we'll activate our Rhapsodia, we'll send the engraver from hand, we'll target the Power Patron, summon it back, and then we'll take our Power Patron and we'll make our Seraphim. And here we can activate the Seraphim. In this instance I would want to bring back our Tinia, because we're assuming our opponent has Astra Medius, has now drolled us, and we've took a card with Omega. So at this point our opponent has 2 cards in hand. In their draw phase they'll draw to 3. We can then activate our Tinia, switch them, put them back on 2 cards in hand. So they have 2 cards in hand, we have a Spell Trap bounce, we have a monster bounce off our Seraphim Reborn, and we also have our Rhapsodia. So we can immediately trade for 1 card, and then if the other card is a monster or a Spell Trap that has to remain on the field, we have another interaction to deal with both of them. And we also do have our Theorealize engrave, so if we had sequenced slightly differently before committing the Welcome Home, we could have had Theorealize to just turn one of our monsters into Light Fiend to go into Fiendsmith combo, but as you can see we have no cards in hand, which was the purpose of keeping the engraver in the first place. So we need that monster to send for cost for our trap effect to try and set up a board like this. So that's just been 3 live test hands, some of my thoughts that I have when I'm going through these test hands and what I want to play around or through. And even we simulated some interaction points there, which are pretty key choke points that you want to get past to resolve your combo in this deck. Very few people will allow you to resolve Medius because it results in both engines online at one time. So yeah, I think that's all. If anyone would like more test hands or more dedicated combo guides through specific hand traps, whether it's Nibiru, Ash, Imperm, Droll, just leave it in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and like the video and show us your support by checking out our sponsor Kong's Cards and using code Cartel5. Thanks.